show, Bruce. How are you going?
Mate, Nigel, thank you so much for having me. Long time listener, first time caller. That's what they say, isn't it?
You're welcome, mate. I'm really excited to have you on the show today. And when I reached out to you a few weeks ago, and I was thinking, we were talking about personalization a few weeks ago, and I was thinking to myself, search is next. And the search piece is such an important piece of, e-commerce and retail at the moment. So I was thinking, I have to reach out to Bruce and we'll get him on the show. So thank you so much for joining the show today.
No, appreciate it. And again, you've hit the nail on the head with search becoming more relevant. We've seen obviously an influx of inquiries, probably in the back of ChatGPT and OpenAI, right? That's been people have now talked about the conversation versus, trying to serve them up what they have. And that's what's really exciting about our market. It's in this kind of flux state. And I think Algolia's, as a business, I can explain what Algolia is in a minute, but I think we're really well positioned to help not only just retail, but help other, call it verticals, digitize their practice and potentially monetize it as well. So for us, we're in a really good spot at the moment on the back of all this, AI, vector, ML capabilities that's actually been more accessible to everyday consumers, which is basically driving us to drive outcome for our customers as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You're talking about digitizing the businesses and digital transformation, right? I mean, it's really on the minds of a lot of people. I've been talking to a few CEOs and things at the moment, CFOs and heads of retail and so on, and e-commerce. And yeah, I can see that there's since 2021, there's more of a focus on their online experience and their websites and things. And as we know, personalization piece is a big piece, but even bigger than that, I think, is obviously search. And discovery starts with either browsing via a main navigation on a website via categorization, or it starts with search. And I'm finding that, and I don't know what you're seeing, maybe you can shine some light on that, but how search has really changed in the last, say, 10 years. When Magento first released, obviously they had Solar Search. You would go to a website, and all of the listeners would know you'd go to site and you'd search for something obscure, let's just say, or not so obscure. It didn't really matter. The results were always different. You'd search for the same thing, even, 2 times, you would find different results. So we know search is getting better and better. One of the reasons I actually met or discovered Algolia was in the startup area of a Magento conference. And at the time I met Gaetan, and we can go into that story in a minute, but I was looking for a solution for search and nobody really had anything. I was looking for something that I could give to my developers to say, hey guys, why don't you check this out? Meanwhile, they're on the hamster wheel trying to fix, search.
The aeroplane in the air with the engine. What was the catalyst for you to do that though? Was it just simply that you knew that search was a problem because of customer feedback, or, was it that you recognize that if we're going to make some quick wins, as you said, it's like, are people going to browse and the search? And they're the kind of two vehicles of how they can engage with your platform. What was the kind of driver there? Was it just simply that you were looking for?
Well, I think there's probably a handful of drivers. I think the main one was the customer experience. Obviously, it's frustrating, and that's the first thing you try to fix. You keep your customers happy so that you always put them first. Then I think it was, just generally the business, when you're talking to suppliers and they're searching for their product or SKUs or part of a model number and it's not appearing in our search, they think it's not on the website. And then it creates this internal kind of turmoil, and it just chews up time, and it's really bad for productivity. So you've got the customer side, the retail side, where they can't find your product reliably via search. And then you've got the internal battle that's going on with trying to explain to people, and let's just say, I won't name names, buyers, let's just say that, no, the product is there, but search is just rubbish, how it was back in the day. And, and that we're working on it. But obviously it's very hard to have that internal conversation about how complicated search is. You try to explain latent semantic indexing and, search algorithms and things to someone who's just interested in buying and selling stuff and making money in between, which is basically retail. It's quite a complex conversation to have. And it's very hard to sit there and justify why it keeps happening, and it's just the technology hadn't caught up to, the fact that consumers were really now starting to embrace online. So really that was the key drivers, customer experience and, internal pressures from not being able to find product.
It's actually, you've kind of hit the nail on the head. And I'll go back and talk you through kind of the evolution of where search has come from. But those three users that you talk about, you have the developer. They're kind of like, how do we get these guys to build something that's going to service both our customers and our business users? That's the stakeholders, and
Yep.
how do we merchandise the site? And I think those three users, the customer, the business user, and really the merchandising team, who are responsible for making sure a product comes up and it's relevant and it's moving, right? But I think search as it is today and where it's come from, search has been around for like the 90s, I think that's 70s and 80s. Endeca kind of built the first initial, call it multifaceted search. But when you look at Solar and Elasticsearch, the underlying premise of that is a thing called Lucerne, this Apache Lucerne technology. And it's basically a mathematical equation that looks for words or statements or phrases and then puts a weighting to it. And that's how you build the algorithm. The way that basically the two founders of Algolia came up with our technology, and that's where the name Algolia comes from, algorithm. It's based on this tie-breaking approach. So if you look at search across all the technologies of today, and we'll get into vectors in a minute, but it's under the premise of keywords. And obviously each SKU has or stock keep unit, or each product has attributes assigned to it, size, whatever it is. And obviously we take those attributes and make them relevant to a search inquiry. So small t-shirt, large t-shirt, located next to, like close to me. But what we've noticed though, as the evolutions come through, is that that the quality of data is really important, as in what data is being serviced through these different products and SKUs. And then more importantly, how to understand the customer's needs, what they're actually asking for. And so keywords are great for the SKUs because they're all embedded there, but trying to understand where the customers are coming from. We used to build synonyms. So t-shirt, is it spelled T-E-E? Is it spelled T-hyphen-shirt? Is it spelled, T space shirt, or all together? So there's like 5 different synonyms. Your poor business users or the merchandisers sitting there writing these things out now. And so I think where we've evolved from that era, where it's been very much about weighting words and terminology, is actually helping with the automation side. And that's kind of where that vector technology comes, which we'll go into in a minute. But I think that would be really important to discuss, because it really is an evolution that's been around for a good 10 years now. That's only become more accessible. So now you don't have to hire basically a data scientist. You don't have to host a data lake. Then you have to host it like a DXP platform to stitch it all together and serve that. It's all kind of being delivered as a service now. And that's really, I think, where search has exploded, over the last probably 2 or 3 years now. COVID has demonstrated to not only just the e-com world, but to the business world. So the C-levels of these large institutions across all verticals, doesn't matter if it's media, traditional FMCG or retail. Even the sports industry is now trying to monetize digital engagements. And I think e-commerce is across the board. And I think that's where you'll find the evolutions coming through for search. Go to the customers and they'll tell you what they want, because they've got Netflix, they've got Spotify, they've got, Google, they've got all that rich, very personalized content being served to them as they need it. Now we have to catch up to that. And that's kind of where this platform of Algolia really plays into quite nicely.
On the point of knowing or understanding what your customers are asking for. And I think that's a really good point, because people think a lot of times businesses will say to me, well, when I search for this, I'm expecting this. I'm saying, yeah, but hang on a second. You're expecting it because you're predicting what a future outcome is going to be for that search term. But a customer who's in a discovery phase, they might be searching around the topic. They haven't got to the point of where they're searching for that particular term you're searching for now. So there is, and this starts a conversation with how search actually works, and the intent signals and things that people actually show before they get to your site, and collecting that information, using it to understand. And I think for me, a good example would be, we looked at JB Hi-Fi. We did a whole bunch of, research, and I was leading that research. And one of the things we noticed was like, if you search for Radiohead, right? So JB have media content. Obviously they have albums. And media and Radiohead would show up. But if you're just quickly searching for radio, expecting to see Radiohead, because all you look at JB Hi-Fi is, for example, their albums and so forth, you're really not interested in digital radios, right? There's a lot of different use cases we'd worked out that those intent signals aren't just the primer for the search path. It's also what have they previously looked at in the past? Where have they come from on Google search, for example? All of these different data points to understand, okay, when they do come, if they do search for something, it's more than likely going to be weighted across the media section of the business, for example, albums and records and DVDs or whatever. So
I would highly recommend you should go back to their website in about a month's time. Staples.ca, the Staples Canadian store, they've got this enabled. It's kind of our example side, but we've just created a thing called query categorization, and so it's in session experience. So
and that makes sense.
The concept is, if you're engaged with JB and you're looking for albums, or we see a lot of use case for coffee. Are you looking for ground coffee or beans? Are you looking for coffee machines, coffee pods, coffee tables? And so the idea that you have all that product, how do you categorize it so that the next engagement that you have with the platform it's predicting that intent? And that's kind of really what the evolution is. So all those buying signals that you've already captured, be it they're a net new customer, they're a customer with a very weak profile, or they're a well-known customer to you. How do you service those three customers? And they're all got different personas and buying habits. And that's what we're trying to do now is we're not trying to be the end state, which is your full customer profile, because that runs the risk of us holding on to data that we shouldn't do. Yeah. But I think we can definitely supplement that with either third-party data or the stuff, the buying signals that we capture and which you would know about.
Yeah, all the observer tags and things.
That idea of understanding what your intent is, be it because you're a net new customer, there's no understanding about who you are. That's a really important thing for a search provider to do, because it's surfacing relevant results, and that's the most important thing. That's what we're designed to do, right? Solve your problem, solve your need, help you be understood to this retailer, and then deliver a product service capability back to them really quickly.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you go just on that example, if you go search for coffee and you've been looking at coffee beans, but you also sell machines and grinders and everything else, like you're constantly buying coffee off that particular retailer, for example, the last thing you want to do is refactor those results again and put to the top coffee machines when that all they buy off you is coffee. You'd want to put them further on down the list or highlight coffee machines and say, hey, by the way, did you know we've got an offer here? We can give you 20% off a coffee machine. Is your coffee machine good enough? Maybe start them down that path. If you wanted to as a marketer, you could quite easily do that. But I think that's really, really good example. Yeah. Back to your point about Gaetan, and I'll touch on that story. It was quite interesting. So
please tell us location. Tell us.
So Magento Conference 2016. I think it was
Magento. Were they owned by Adobe by then? No, they were just Magento.
No. This was
they had
Roy
no money. They had no
Rubin
budget
and
for
Yoav.
open bar. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it was a great conference. He had this little tiny booth, and Gaetan was there, and I'd messaged him and I said, hey, I don't think he was at his booth. I think he was with a client. So we sat down and we had a coffee, and he was telling me about search, and I was explaining to him all these issues, and like he'd heard it all before, so he knew exactly what to expect. He goes, well, look, I can solve your problems, but I'm going to have to show you on my little laptop. And he had like a little laptop, and he just had his phone, and it was tethered to it was 3G, I think, connection. And I was having issues too. It was 3 and 4G, right? So this is how long ago it was. There was no 5G. I'm thinking, how the hell is he going to tether his notebook to his phone and then run a search query and get back anything in enough time to impress a customer? So I literally saw him. He dialed in, pulled up a query screen, and you could see that it was live. There was no caching or anything like that. And he calls it something he was searching over. It's a huge amount. And he searched, and I had to go as well, but he searched for a couple of search terms, and it was instant. Yeah. And I looked at him, and I was just gobsmacked. I'm like, where's the spinny wheel thing? The spinny wheel, like the Ajax throbber. I'm like, where's that? God. Where's that gone? And I'm thinking, what? This is blowing me away. And he's like, oh no. He started, and look, on purpose, I brought my propeller hat here.
Yeah. Yeah. Did he explain?
Maybe I should put my propeller hat on right now, so I can start spinning. But yeah, it brought back all these results, and I searched a few things. I think it was a taxation library of all this law or something. So it was all text based, and it was just instant, and all the refactoring there, and it had the most popular pages, and I'm thinking, and I looked at him, and at the time I said, how much is it? And he told me, and I went, sign me up. That's it.
You're right.
I'm
You've
done.
signed. You're in.
I'm
Oh,
in.
that's awesome.
That was it. Yeah.
What was the result though? Like, did you see a
Amazing.
like
It was
it
huge.
increase in revenue? Was it
Conversions? Everything.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, it's conversions, revenue conversions, but
yeah,
average order amount. But what I was basing the success metric for me obviously was conversions, right?
yeah.
But it was actually the number of products displayed per search term inside a category that I knew was our core business. So
Awesome.
what I did, because we didn't have any analysts or anything where I was working at the time. So what I did was I took all of the keyword search terms out of our Google account, out of our AdWords account. I then overlaid that with the number of search or the number of products returning results on the site based on that on the ad spend, the ad keywords that we had.
So
I extracted all the brand terms, all the store locator terms. It was just more product terms.
So you actually weighting the terms as well because of the cost of them.
Yeah. So I aligned our margins per category. So the category. So I went from I worked back from the margins and the popularity of the product. So stock turns, then margin.
So
then
availability, the margin, and
availability. Correct. So availability was third. Right. So because the thing here, and this was a debate because you don't always want to show things that are in stock over things that are out of stock if they're not what the intent of the search is. So for example, if Sony TV #1 has the most stock turns and has the most margin, but is out of stock, and I put that third or fourth, it's not likely to result in a conversion. But if I put it first, they might sign up for when it comes back into stock or go in store and place an order in store. Okay.
Gotcha.
And wait. And that's a lot of retailers didn't realize that because a lot of people were just looking online and going in store. So I would weight it based on that. And I could see what we were selling. So I had all the reports so I could see the impact. It was very hard for me to show the business what that impact was because Google would just have a ROAS multiplier. Yeah. So, and then I worked back from that. And then I said, okay, well, I've only got 5 products showing. There's 50 products in that particular category, but on search on that search term, our click-through rate on our ads is really high. The quality score is really high on our ads. And I can see, we've got a dedicated landing page, but the search results, when they get there, they hit the landing page, but then they go to search, for example, they start looking at the range. And so I did it that way. So I worked back in that way to work out how to work out the ROI. Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly that is literally the business model today. Tell us your business metrics. Are you trying to move newer stock?
10 years ago, so
legacy stock, exactly. You have built your own, basically, your own BA and your own almost, almost order management system to a certain degree, right? Because you're looking at inventory in real time and what the data. But what the data piece is exactly that is exactly what we're about. We're the second largest search vendor behind Google by a fair way. But if you add up all the other search vendors like your Yahoos and your Bings, times them by 4, and that's kind of the size of Algolia.
Wow.
And we're sitting on this, we're sitting on this wealth of information. Right? What you just said there about all these conversion metrics, if we capture that from all our customers, we can predict what's happening globally. Now, for us as a very, very PII and GDPR company, we will never sell that data. That's part of our DPA. Google does though, and that's how Google does their evolution. They take their analytic traffic and then they use that to influence understanding, and that's what drives it. So it's a completely different approach.
Yes.
Google's for the masses. We're kind of for you as the consumer, and that's why we've kind of made our system quite closed. We don't. You can influence that by third-party buying signals and third-party data, like a Google Analytics or a GTM to help with tagging and things like that. And be extensible. But the reality is you have to understand your business the best so that we can help, make the relevancy change. If you need to move more product, more margin, if you've got customer profiles, we'll help understand that for you and give you lots of ways to do it. But you were bleeding edge, man, way back then doing that, looking at the buying signals and then, augmenting or merchandising the e-commerce experience and the search experience and the results that are being rendered, which is amazing, dude.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah. I mean, it's just retail at the end of the day. But now, I mean, if you look back over the past 10 years, Algolia has really been just on the point of and the number of search queries. It's been basically part of the evolution of search, and it's changed the industry, e-commerce industry globally. I think that's as profound the impact that Algolia has actually had. And you see a lot of spin-offs now, different products going, but they don't have the underlying purpose. because it's purpose that I don't want to sound like a line from the Matrix, but it's purpose that drives everybody, right? You've got to have a purpose. Algolia was for the developers. I remember sitting and I think it was a couple of years after when I met Gaetan, and I was already a customer, and it had proven that it was working. And there's always these little teething things that we had, but that was sorted straight away pretty much, and that's important. As a product and as a retailer, you can slam your hand down on the desk and say, "Oh, this is not acceptable," but you got to work with people as well. You got to work, and you got to be prepared to sell it internally and have the right mindset of how search is. It's never perfect. It aims to be perfect. But as you say, with the advent of AI and everything else, eventually it will be fully AI. It will understand what you're looking for, what your preferences are in terms of brand. Like it'll just know, and it'll just happen. What do they say? What's that saying? Future technologies can be indistinguishable from magic. And I think eventually you just go to a site and expect it, and it'll just be, as you say, you've got all of this data. It'll just work. You'll have the similar search experience across most websites. I think that's probably one of the most frustrating things. You go to a site and the search is not as good as another site that you've been to, and it sort of falls short in your expectations that you want to shop there, because it just becomes really frustrating. Yeah. So no, thanks, mate. That's super interesting.
Even just unpacking that a little bit more, like if you look at our customer base, and it's heavily weighted towards retail. So JB Hi-Fi, Bingley, Culture Kings, we've got Woolworths as a customer. And then, when I look at our install base, there's like 20,000 customers. I think we say 17,000, but some of these customers have multiple customers underneath one. And so of that 60% of those retailers, like they're helping us innovate. Our customers, send feature requests like it's no one's business, because they expect that, right? Their customers are asking them, and they're asking us. And so that only makes us fight more for that capability with a development base of like 350 odd, team. Like we've got so many developers and different capabilities, trying to work on different strategies to help improve that. One of those ones we'll talk about, which is Search.io. We acquired them, an Australian business, and I would highly recommend you get Hamish on. Hamish was one of the co-founders of Search.io, and he's kind of like the godfather for us when it comes to vector search and this idea of natural language, large language models. He is amazing in terms of what his perception is, but when I say perception, about meeting the customer where they are. And I just did a session in Commerce Tools, like an e-com provider similar to Shopify or Magento.
Yep.
And, they were talking about the advent of the mobile device being the full platform offering. Through WeChat in China, you buy your groceries, you pay homeless people on the street if you want to tip them. It's all QR codes. People just want to be understood. And for us, you said it before, like, when you think about their experiences, be it in-store experience where they're trying to be understood, searching for something, I need to find the toilet, I need to find Nikes that fit a kid that's aged 5, you're not putting size in there. I'm looking for a lilac sweater or a lavender sweater. Now, if you don't have purple or mauve or whatever the color or shade it is, like from a keyword, you're screwed. They're not going to come back with any relevancy, right? It's going to give you a jumper, hoodie, jacket, pullover, whatever it is, right? And so I think that understanding through whatever platform it is, be it a point of sale device, be it in-store experience, be it digital apps, be it for business users as well, trying to do searches on, give us the latest inventory levels and what products are moving quickest, like what you did before. That's kind of where we need to help the customer be better serviced. The browse experience and content that's being served, I think that also is important, because with those digital natives that are coming from Instagram, Facebook, and any of these social platforms, they want to feel that same brand and trust come through to their whatever platform or brand they're touching. And so I think getting that consistent message, like you were saying before, going to one site, getting let down, and then going to another site and being, wow. Like for the audience, look, search converts. There's no doubt about it. Like for every person that engages with a search, and look at Google Analytics, jump on there and say, people that are having search sessions, what's the conversion rate on that compared to browse sessions? It's that simple. If you're doing it right, it should be in the realm of like 5 to 6x. That's 5 to 6 times conversions through search than it is to browse. Because customers are coming to the website either as a known quantity or an unknown quantity, and you're just trying to work out which bucket they're going to fit in and then help them convert for you. One thing I would say though is when you think about those pillars, you need to the AI movement and where you buy one platform or one capability and it solves all your problems. I think you got to be aware that there's you as a consumer and you as a vendor, as a brand, you know your customers better than anyone. You can't expect some third party to come in and say, just turn on the tweaks of AI and it'll run itself. You'll still need to have some level of input to help drive your signals, your buying signals, because we know everyone wants that Nike because on sale and there's none of it left. So they want to keep coming back and asking for it, right? And to the idea of, I know you're looking for the size 10 and I know you're coming from this location. So how do I help you find it in store? Or how do I help? That may not service their needs, but at least gives them opportunity to say, help discover what else we have to offer for you and see what else you're interested in. And then once you've got them in that buying mode and trying to help them discover what you have, they're like, oh, wow, you got heaps of stuff, right? This feels like an endless aisle experience kind of approach. When you think about Algolia's technology, that's actually fundamentally our biggest offering in terms of capability. When it comes to speed and the speed of those results, not only to index data really quickly, but more importantly, to surface that data back to mobile device. When we talk about speed, we're talking about like sub 20 milliseconds.
Yeah.
If you're at the other end of the spectrum, which is 100 milliseconds, or even like the inability to load a page, and a part of that page might be simply recommendations, and you're taking like 300 milliseconds to serve that up, that's money walking out that door. For every 0.1 of a second, it's like it reduces your percentage of conversion by 8%. Black Friday coming up, how do we get the right seasonal data into play? And I think that's really fundamentally important as well. Sorry, I'm harping on that a bit.
No. I mean, it's absolutely spot on. One of the things I've told many people who have asked me about search is that, it's a bit like buying a Ferrari and not taking it on the racetrack if you don't put the right sort of structure around your search. The thing is, it's just making sure that whatever team you put around your search, it's the right team. So you've got to, when you pull into the pit lane, you want to be in and out really quickly. If something goes wrong, and I'm using that analogy to simplify it down for the general person out there that's listening who's a shopper and not really running an e-commerce website, for example. You've got to put the right team around it to make it work for you, because it is such a powerful tool. But at the same time, if you want to be hands off, you can engage with you guys and get it all set up and do that. And it's a really good point about Black Friday and a lot of the revenue. Actually, I think a lot of retailers are banking on having a big final quarter, and I think in my mind, what I used to do, and I don't know if you're thinking about it or not out there in listening land, but if you've got product, that you've got coming back this year, it's not a category you normally delve in, but you've got, quantities that you want to sell for Black Friday, I would make sure that you check your search. Make sure that your search is picking up, you got your metadata structured correctly, and go back and have a look at last year's search data in Algolia, because there is so many good reports and analytics. There's so much intelligence in the Algolia platform. If you are already a customer, if you've got Google Analytics and you're just using that, that's fine too. You can just go in and have a look at your search reports for last year and have a look at the queries, run those queries again, and make sure that something is appearing in those search terms and you're not serving up white pages of, sorry, there's no products in that category, or we can't find what you're looking for. Yeah, no results or whatever. And because that's just a marketer's nightmare. And from a business owner's point of view, if I was a business owner looking at that and not finding the products that I know I've got sitting in the warehouse, for example, in search, because someone along the line hasn't put the right content in, or it's not in the right category, because it always happens. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. I would say a tip from me would be to make sure you have, your Black Friday search data looked at, and make sure that it's, you got product appearing in those categories, because it is super important. You get your conversions, because a lot of retailers are banking on that big quarter for the rest of the year. So
Search.io, so in Australia, Algolia is 47 staff now in total.
Okay,
and a chunk of those came from the search. Yeah, well, a large portion, as in data scientists, engineers, all came from the Search.io acquisition back in September.
I met with Search.io a while ago. I remember they had a cool feature, which was, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, they had a visual search. You could search over your database and it would find the black T-shirt. It would find.
You bring into our product roadmap. So visual neural is what we're referring to. maybe you have to like pretend something visual. What you just said there is exactly what it is, right? It's the idea that we are looking for opportunities to fill in the gaps of the data that's missing.
Yeah.
We're not going to be granular in the sense of we know that there's a small shoe here. We're going to surface a small shoe where you don't have in stock. But the reality is through Search.io plus our own engine, we're basically bringing those two worlds together. And the real nut that Search.io cracked that we as an organization, we're leaning towards this is the idea of creating basically vector hashes or neural hashes. And what they are pockets or packets of data specific to your individual use case that allow us to basically provide the keyword and like a closest proximity to that and bind them together and service it up.
Yep.
So and again, vector search and like the big retailers across the globe have tried this for a long time. They recognize that running a data warehouse is very expensive. And so the Search.io team have done an amazing job to build this neural hashing. Well, what that means is it allows us to do stuff at scale. So when we build our profiles for customers, it is a learning model. It's a large language model that we use from that everyone uses, basically, the large language model that is sourced by the internet. But what we've done is almost applied our own logic of AI on top of it and said, okay, well, for this retailer, we know they don't sell fishing rods. So why is that part of a large language model, for example, or whatever it is? But combine those keywords and this vector search and the neural hashing allows us to provide a really efficient fast. So we don't lose the speed, we don't lose, we improve the relevancy. And to turn it on is literally a toggle. So what you just said there about Black Friday, we're telling all our customers now is like for all of those results that don't get like a competing result, a buying signal against it, for no results pages, for those category pages that are obscure or the way that you're putting in your terminology, the statistics are in. We've gone from 2 years ago, it was 2.6 words. Now it's 8.9 or something like that words per query. So really? Expressions are getting longer.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that.
So the idea that you're searching for headphones.
It's almost sentences now, really. It's a sentence.
Yeah, it's a full sentence. Headphones to wear in the gym. I sweat a lot. Small. When you think about that, just that simple statement, there's no keywords there, but headphones is it. What else are you going to do? Like,
well, you could be showing sweaters and headphones.
Absolutely. Like,
I mean, you could be,
So what we do with that, and we call
the intent
those
is completely different.
Yeah, exactly. And there are, if what you did before, when you're saying you're looking back at your Google search results, there are millions and billions of queries just like this, and they're going unserved because there's no keyword matching. And so what Algolia has done is not just address that, but we've applied the same neural module to the front end to improve the query. So understanding intent to help with the retrieval. So we understand that it can be served by keyword, vector. Let's apply another vector model on top of it to provide a better result from retrieval. Do you want to see it in like pagination? Do you want to see it in different modeling? And then, of course, probably the most important part from the business users, what do you want to do? Do you want to sell more of them? Do you want to sell less of them? Do you want to sell with more margin? All that kind of business around that. So no more rules, the ability for you to, build custom rules and logic when you're surfacing. If someone puts in a headphone or head, you don't want to be surfacing phones or head mask or whatever it is. You want to understand the full content. So you get rid of rules, get rid of synonyms. You get rid of the idea that keywords have to be improved or attributes have to be added to support that. And there's no more kind of hacking of the platform. You don't have to, natural languages are already included with it. So you're basically bridging that gap to helping a customer being understood. But that technology, it's just amazing. And this is homegrown stuff, right? It's insane. Sorry. I geek out, but it's a
no. Look, that's why
shift.
I've got my hat here, man. I was going to literally put it on so the propeller could start spinning, but I love it. It gets my propeller spinning too, mate. Don't worry about that. I love it. I think, and a lot of our audience out there, who are retailers, they want to understand more of this. It's a perfect way for us to just give them a bit of insight into the importance of search, because consumers are always a moving target. And I speak about this quite a bit from a customer perspective and brand's perspective. So there's two sides of it. You've got the brand who's always trying to maintain relevance. I mean, there is no better way to maintain the relevance with your audience than making sure your search results on your website match what people are thinking about, looking for, and what they're expecting. If you're not, you should be already in there and looking at it, and keep it top of mind, because it speaks to future revenue. It speaks to future. Totally get what you're saying. So
you will know it though, right? If you're an executive and you're seeing your ad spend go up, that's a leading indicator of one or two things. One is they don't trust the site, so they'll go back to Google and search vendor this, and they'll go, okay, Google has crawled my site better and servicing me better relevance. And then you'll see that come through, and they'll go, so that should be a big leading indicator that they're not searching on site because they don't trust it or they can't find it, right?
Well, yeah, in the early days, I remember there were a lot of competitors to Algolia, and their SERPs were actually better optimized than the websites were. Have you got any brands or any examples of brands, maybe one story of where they've introduced Algolia and seen some really good, you don't have to speak to the exact results, but
probably the best one, the first one that comes to mind is probably Culture Kings. So here's an Australian brand, well-known Shopify account. They got acquired by AKA Brands 2 years ago. So Simon's no longer, he's obviously still got investment, but he's still involved in business. They launched in Vegas last year. Black Friday for them, they saw 5.2% increase in conversions just through some baseline tweaks. And on this website here, see where it says trending and shop by new. That's our recommend platform as well. So because we helped them make money, they actually reinvested in us. So they said, we actually were helping them drive their business case for them to continue to invest. So when you add to cart, the idea that you're getting, frequently brought together, the idea that you can also now do things where you can add capabilities inside and engage the customer is really what we've done for them. So the Culture Kings example is probably the one that comes first to mind, because, they're an Australian brand going international, and that excites me because they basically drive innovation for us. When you think about metrics though, what we care for them is conversion is the most important through. So conversion lift through search and conversions, average order values, exit rate, time on site, time in app. How do we help them from a net promoter score or minimizing churn? They all come part of the kind of complete package with us. And the call out for this one is that the customer success manager, Catherine Thorogood, that basically works with the Culture Kings team. She is their SME when it comes to this stuff, the subject matter expert. She helps them using other customer examples and shows them what to do. And I think that's the gel here, is that we just don't want you to sell your platforms and leave you to deal with yourself. And I think you probably have done it in the past. The new way is, don't do stuff that's going to take you months. Get stuff that Algolia's got out of the box, and it'll take you days to implement, and maybe a week to do regression testing and make sure it works, and then put it out in the wild and A/B test and see the results. That's what you need to do. Iterate. And I think that's the most important. That's exactly what Culture Kings have done with us in their strategy.
For those listening, I'm doing a search and I'm searching for Bulls hat, which is the kind of type of hat I'm wearing at the moment because I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan. And you can see it's literally immediate the moment you search. And if you just do a search for Bulls, for example, I've just do a misspelling. I use two U's. Straight away, it knew exactly what I was searching for.
Yeah, all that stuff should be table stakes. I think we gloss over it, but auto suggestion. You don't have to be logged in to know that you're an existing customer. So the idea that there's personalization out of the box, that stuff should be 101. And I say that liberally, that when you are looking at search, make sure they do the baseline stuff good. Because if they haven't thought about that and they're trying to use AI to fudge it, then you don't have any control over what's being produced. Culture Kings will drill us. They'll go, why is this coming up here? What's the merchandising strategy here? And we'll help them, guide them through what data they've given us. So it's very much they're doing a great job.
I mean, the site looks really good, Bruce. And I think the fact that they've got Algolia Search running on there just makes it so easy, because you've got, when you do a search, for those listening, you've got all the categorization on the left. You've got genders, you've got brand, size, color, discount, price buckets, price sliders. So you've got different ways to interact with the results, as you would expect. But the fact that it is so quick, you don't feel fatigued. Sometimes you go to websites, you do some searching, and then after you kind of want to go and have a glass of wine and sit down. It's just oh my God, I feel exhausted. Let's do a search for Jordans. Might even misspell it, but bang, straight away, Jordans. Bang. It's got a landing page, Jordans. If you're looking for Jordans, there's keyword data to reaffirm that you're at the right place.
And let's look at this website. I'm telling you right now, the reason why there's two shirts coming up in that first tile, it's been merchandised that way, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're products that they want to move. I imagine. I'm just making that statement, but that the reason why it's not coming out with all Jordans is because
Jordan is a brand. It has clothing as well as
exactly.
Yes. If I search for Jordan shoes, well, it has on the left footwear, and they have 184. So immediately I'm like, wow, I'm impressed. That's pretty cool. I bought myself a pair of these actually. These Retro 5 Concords, and they have the new Zooms, 90s 95 Zooms. That they're sick, and they're the only place that has them. No one else has them. And we were in the Melbourne store. I showed my son. He looked at it and it kind of looked funny because I got it like a big bubble. I'll show you in a minute. But I looked on the website first before, and he didn't even know. And within a few seconds, I'm like, let's go to the Culture Kings. I want to have a look. I'll show you, because he had never seen it. Walked in and he was blown away, but I showed him the shoes. And the other thing that they do really well is they show you the sizes that are available at the search results page, which is so good. Because why am I going to waste my time clicking through to something that it's not available in my size? All right.
You have no idea how, like, and again, I don't want to bad competition, but like if the Kmart store, like Kmart.com, and we aren't powering these ones, and Bunnings, they're just a frustrating experience. They really are. And you add all these products at Christmas time, and you're like, I want to check out, but there's none available. You're like, are you kidding me? So that may not go to the search vendor per se, but we as a vendor will be saying, guys, you need to fix this. Like, we will help you fix this, but you need to fix its surface relevant inventory, because if you're not, you're frustrating your customers. And I know they're already frustrated by this. So, this experience here is not the same as what we've tried. I shouldn't really call them that, but I'd say it is.
No. Well, it's funny because my wife said she hates the search. And I actually was going to ask you. I wasn't going to throw a grenade your way, but I was going to say, is Kmart like one of yours? So here's an example what I'm talking about. So if I search for headphones without a space, there's 100 products available. Yeah. If I search for headphones with a space, there's 103 products available. Now, it's an 80-20 principle. If 80% of my revenue is generated by 20% of my SKUs, and that 20% is represented by the 3 that are missing without the space, I'm potentially missing half the conversions based on the search terms that are for headphones.
So you're thinking about this with data. I don't know. I hope people in retail land are thinking about this with back data, because it's there. If you don't have the data and you're not using the data to drive that data-driven decision-making process, then you're losing the game altogether. It's my assumption that most of them are. Like, we're all about analytics, right? We have to be, because
that's why I love it, to be honest. It's all about data, the data that's getting fed into it. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off.
Sorry, man. No, you're right. For another time, I'll hopefully come back and talk. I hope this has been a good session. But the Chicago, I spent 2 years in Chicago, and the retail experience and working with retailers in
I love the Magic Mile
platform, amazing experience. And I think there's definitely different markets, but lots to unpack there as well.
There was one more topic, but we're not going to have time to get onto that. But it was really talking about the ROI. We sort of did touch on it a bit, but I think
it's there. It's 386%. Like
well, there you go.
Save your developers like millions of dollars in their time. We'll basically help your business users better merchandise. Like, it's there. Like, we've actually done the analysis on different retail segments. It's literally 386% return on investment is the minimum. Yeah. So that just goes to show, like, it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
But all I'd say is you just got to balance the cost of implementation. That's what we don't know. And again, you only know your business better than you do. So let's make sure you understand that. Yeah. And that will make sense.
Yeah. If someone was looking to fix their search before, say, for example, Christmas, is there still time?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Walgreens, 16 weeks, 10,000 stores. So second largest pharmacy in the US, 10,000 stores, 50,000 SKUs per store, and they were competing with Amazon, like we all are.
Yeah.
They had to deliver 30 minutes, and we did that for them.
Fantastic.
We actually helped them achieve that within 16 weeks.
All right. Out in listener land, I would say, Bruce, if they want to fix search, for them to reach out to you and start a conversation. I'll leave your details on the show notes. I'll link to if you've got anything to show the audience in relation to the ROI. If you've done that research, I can put a link up on the blog. Mate,
Legend.
it's been awesome having you on. Thank you so much again for agreeing to come onto the show, and I'd love to have you back on.
I really appreciate this, and I'm so excited to see who else you bring onto the show. And yeah, I'm always listening now.
Have a great week. Thanks, buddy.
Love it.
Thanks, mate.